So where we are at file system object, right? We are discussing about file system object, how to interact with the files and folders, right? And yesterday we just discussed about what is exactly file system object and what is that scripting made for, right? So file system object is a class here, and scripting is a namespace, nothing but the library, and file system object class is defined inside the scripting library. So whenever you want to use the methods related to that particular class or the methods which are defined inside file system object, you need to create the instance of that particular file system object. Then you create the instance and you take that instance to a variable. Okay, so those are called as instance variables. Then how do you create the instance? We use something called create object. Okay, then you say create object, so set OFSO or any variable you can use, then say create object of scripting dot file system object. Sorry, file system object. So this is how you need to create the instance. Then once you create the instance and take that instance to a variable, remember that whenever you are assigning the object to a variable, you must have to use the set. Set is a keyword here. Okay. Then what is the difference between a keyword and a statement? So we have discussed about many things. Sometimes we are calling it as a statement, sometimes we are calling it as a keyword, sometimes I was calling it as a method, right? Normally keywords will not do any action, will not perform any actions. Okay, keywords are normally used for assignments. Normally every keyword is used to make the assignments. Those will not perform any actions, separate actions. Okay, remember. And when we are using methods, methods are usually used for performing certain actions or certain events. Okay. At the same time, statements are like the conditional statements or anything. Statements are used for conditions. Okay, always remember that. Then once you create the instance like this, then you will be able to see all the methods related to the file system object. Then we started with creating the text file and then writing the data into that. Okay, so to create the text file, what's the method that we use? We use something called create text file. So this method is used to create a text file, and input for this method is absolute path of the file. Okay, you have to provide absolute path. Absolute path in a sense, the path of the file where that file has to be created and the name of the file along with the extension. Remember one thing here, when you are using create text file, you can create any file which is text stream, something called as text stream. Okay, so what is meant by text stream here is any file which can be editable in notepad. Any file which can be editable in notepad, you can call it as a text stream. Now let's say for example, when you take an VBS file, okay, when you take an VBS file is editable in notepad. Okay, you can right click and edit in notepad. That can be a text stream. So by using create text file, you can create a VBS file directly and you can write the data into that. And HTML. Okay, so HTML file also a text stream. So you can edit the HTML file in the notepad. Okay, normally all the source code and all we write in the notepad and then we will save it as an HTML. So you can create an HTML file by using create text file. And txt, that is normal text file. So you can create a VBS file, or you can create an HTML file, or you can create a txt file by using create text file method. Any of these file can be created. Okay, but whatever the file it is, you must have to give the absolute path. The folder path where that has to be created, name of the file along with the extension, which is very much mandatory here to provide the absolute path. Okay, now just provide the path here. Just let me save this file and get the path here. write file and the write data. So this is where we need to create. I'll just say here then. So you can give test file or any file name that you can provide here. Then I'm giving it as VBS. Okay, I'm giving it as VBS to save that file. Now creating and writing the data. When you run that, and if you go here, can you see that VBS file has been created? The reason why it has created that VBS file, because I have given the extension like VBS here. Similarly, you can also give HTML extension. If you give HTML extension, then it creates the HTML file. Okay, so you can not only the text file, you can create this kind of files also. Okay, so if you want to create one HTML file or in future, or if you want to create one VBS file automatically, then you can use this create text file method. Now, why we are creating these files? To write some data into the files, right? Now, whenever you want to write the data into the file, what you have to do is, after creating the file, and one more thing, okay, before we go for writing, then if you see here, we are creating this, and this file is already there. Just consider this file is already there. Okay, so file is already there, and whenever I run the script again and again, even this file exists now, and same file I have given to create. What happens? It will overwrite the file again. And if you say that, okay, no, the file should not be overwritten. If the file is already there, if the file is not there, then it can create it. But if the file is there, it should not create. It should throw an error saying that, okay, this file is already exist. Got what I am saying? If the file is not there, you create it. If the file is there, then it should not overwrite. Now what it is doing, if the file is not there, it is creating new file. If the file is there, it is overwriting that. Okay. Now I don't want to overwrite the file. What I have to do is, instead of overwriting, I have to get an error saying that file is already exist. Then what you do is, now you can give one more input saying true here. So it's not case sensitive, you can give in any case, no problem. Okay. The reason why I am giving I removed this parenthesis here. Okay, earlier I have used. The reason is, just go back to the function calls. When we made the function calls, what I told, when you are not using call statement, or when you are not using a variable to call the function. So there are three ways we can call the function. Create text file is one of the function they made as internally. Okay. So when you are using call statement, you have to give within the parenthesis. And when you are using a variable equals to function call, then you still have to use the parenthesis. We have discussed about this. When you are not using any variable and when you are not using any call statement, then you must have to give those variable values or the argument values without parenthesis. That's what we have discussed, right? So since we are not using any call statement, or we have not assigned this method or function call to any variable, then you should not use parenthesis when you are using multiple inputs. Okay, now see what happens. I have given true, right? Did I save this? Create text file, write data. Just wait. Okay, yeah, right. I'm sorry. True means overwrite it. So I have given true, right? So true means it has to overwrite. So I am giving false here. Now what happens here? It's not overwriting. It says that file already exists. So there are two inputs. In fact, there are three inputs. One is Unicode something. Wait for some more time that you will understand it. What is meant by Unicode? Create text file has got three inputs total. Out of that, two inputs are optional. Second input and third input are optional inputs. And one mandatory input is absolute path of the file, where that file has to be created and what name that you have to give, what extension. So everything is called as absolute path. So that input is mandatory. Okay. Then second input is overwrite. Do you want to overwrite the file? In case if the file is already exists, do you want to overwrite or not overwrite? If you give true, then you are asking to overwrite it. If the file is already there, then you are asking to overwrite it. If the file is not there, then you create it. That's what you say, when you give true. But when you give false, then what you are saying is do not overwrite. If the file is already there, don't overwrite it. Just give an error saying that file is already exist. If you give true there, it will overwrite. False is don't overwrite. Default value, if you don't give anything true or false, default it will take it as true. Okay, so that's the reason it's overwriting. Third input is something called Unicode. Again, you may not be able to understand it for now. Wait for some more time, you will understand it. You can see there is one more input here. See here, there are three inputs total: file name, overwrite, and something called Unicode. The one which you see inside the square bracket there, that square bracket represents that it's optional input. Whatever you see, if any argument, it is displayed in the square bracket, that means that it is optional. If it is not displayed inside the square bracket, it is a mandatory input always. If you look at this here, second one and third one are displayed in the square bracket. That means that these are optional inputs. And this one, file name, is not displayed in square bracket. That means it is a mandatory input always. That is the basic thing that we can check, okay, to understand whether it's a mandatory input or optional input. Okay. Now, why we are creating this file exactly? Now let me take this as a false. Let me remove it, so that by default it will set to true. Okay, so it has to overwrite. Now, why we are creating this file? Maybe to write some data into the file. Whenever you want to write the data into the file, what you have to do, you need to use certain methods to write the data. So you may not write it in one place. You have to write it in different places. I am creating the text file in the beginning of the script. Whatever the file that I have created, I need to access that file in remaining lines of code, and then I need to write the data into that. So what you have to do is, if you want to access that file in remaining lines of code, you just should not create the file like this by using create text file. Instead of just keeping like this, what you have to do, after creating that file, you need to store that file in one variable. So whenever you want to use that file in remaining lines of code, by using that variable, you can access it. Okay. So this file, whatever you are creating, you need to store this file in one variable, so that whenever you need to access that file in remaining lines of code, you can use that variable and then you can access it. Then how do we do that? So set o file, or any variable name you can give. I am just giving the variable name as notepad. But you can give any name, whatever you want, accordingly, what kind of file that you are creating, for what purpose you are creating the file, you can give the name of the file. Now let us say I am creating a file for storing the logs, execution results and all. I need to store in that particular file. Then I will give the variable name as log file. When it's a log file, then that file what I am creating is for log. So like this, depends on the situation, depends on the purpose, why you are creating that, then you give the variable name. Whatever the variable you are using to store that particular file. Now once these lines are executed, then notepad will contain the text file whatever has been created. It will create the text file, whatever the file is created, that file will be assigned to this variable. Okay. Now once this is assigned to the variable, by using this notepad we can access the file, okay, in remaining lines of code wherever you want. Okay. Now what we need to do here? We need to write the data into the notepad after creating it. That's what our purpose is here, or that's what our intention is. Then how do we write the data into the file? So as I told yesterday, there are three methods available to write the data into the file, any text file. So those three methods are, one is write, second one is write line, third one is write blank lines. So these are the three methods available to write the data into the notepad, any text stream. Okay, no matter it is a new file that you are creating or you are using existing file for anything, so you have these two methods. Okay, now let's understand each method, how each method works here. Okay, now I am using a write method here. First, okay, we will go with one by one. First we will use write method, and let's understand how the write works, and let's understand how the write line works next. Okay, so when I say write, then I want to write some data into that file. First one is, this file is created on. So what I am doing here, I am retrieving the current date, and then I am saying that this file is created on so and so date. Okay, I am just writing that. Or you can say now. So this will give both date and time. It will write both date and time into the notepad. Similarly, say notepad.write, this file is for, I'll say today's name is, what I am doing, I need to retrieve the name of the day. So how do you do that? Weekday, name of weekday of date. Okay. So how many lines of code that I am writing here? There are 2 lines of code that I am writing here, right? So that means 2 lines of text that I am writing in the notepad. Okay. Now let's see what happens here. When I run this file, whatever the file that I have created now, then how many lines of text that should come? 2 lines, because I am writing 2 lines here. One is, okay, this file is created on so and so date and time. At the same time, today's name is so and so. 2 lines I have written here. So 2 lines of text should come. When I run this and open the file, what happened here? How many lines it has come? Just let me decrease the font size. Okay. How many lines have come now? Only 1 line. But how many lines I have written here? 2. So even though I have written 2 lines, but still both the 2 lines are appended to single line only here, right? Even though I have written 2 lines of text, but in the notepad it has come only 1 line. So both the lines, whatever I have written here, are appended to single line here. Let's understand how it happened. Okay, what exactly it does. Let me write one more line also here. I'll say notepad dot write. Okay. Today's number in the year, or I'll say current week is. How do you get the week? Current week in the year. Date part, right? So date part function is used to retrieve the specific part of the date. So as you know, told there, if you give 4 whiles, it will give the year part. If we give D, it will give the day part. M, month part, right? So like this. So W stands for week. week is again, it's a 4th week we are to right now. Again, what happened here? Okay, so again it has given in the same line. So even though I have written 3 lines of text, but it is still displayed in single line. Then how exactly it works, write works, why it is giving in the single line is, what write does exactly is, it will write the text in the notepad and in the same line where the cursor is. Wherever the cursor is at any line, in whatever the line the cursor is located, text will be written at end of that particular line. If the cursor is in second line, text will be appended to second line. If the cursor is in third line, text will be appended to third line. Okay, and after writing the text for the in that line, cursor will keep the cursor in the same line again. So what exactly it means is, let me open a small notepad here. Okay, whenever you create a new file or whenever you open a file, new file, by default where the cursor will be? Cursor will be there in the first line. By default it will be in the first line. Okay, so when you use write method in the beginning, since the cursor is in the first line, text will be written in first line only. So it will write the text here. After writing the text, when you use write method, it will write the text like that, whatever the text that you have written, and it will keep the cursor in the same line. So it will keep the cursor, after writing the text in that line, it will keep the cursor in the same line. Now, where the cursor is? Cursor is remain in the first line only. I have written some text, but cursor is still in first line. So next time when I use write method, second time, in the same file, where the cursor is now? Still it is in the first file. So text will be written in the first line only. Now since I have used write method, it will write the text and keeps the cursor in the same line. So now where the cursor is? Cursor is remain in the first line here. It will keep writing in the first line only. Cursor is not coming down here. So since the cursor is not coming down, it is keeping in the same line. So no matter if you are using 5 lines or if you are using 10 lines you have written there, but in the notepad it will come only in one line, in the first line only. So this is what happened exactly. First time when I created the file, cursor was there in the first line. Then when I have used write method here, it will write the text in the first line. After writing the text, cursor will not come down. Cursor it will keep in the same line, but cursor will be moved to end of the line. So when I used write here, since the cursor is in the first line only, text is appended to first line. So since second time also I have used write method, then after writing the second line text here, whatever I have written, it will keep the cursor in same line again after writing this. So when I use write third time, again what happened? Since the cursor is in first line only, so text is appended to first line again. So when you use write method, what happens is, it will write the text in the line where the cursor is at this moment, and after writing the text, it keeps the cursor in same line. Cursor will not come to the next line. So next time when you use the method, write method, it will write the text in the same line where the cursor is. Okay. So even though you have written 3 times here, but all 3 times cursor is not coming down. Cursor it is keeping in the same line, so the text is appending to same line. Okay. This is what write method is exactly. Okay. I'm sorry.
Sir, in between the same case is
yeah, sorry.
in between the same case is cursor.
No, how do you use send keys? How do you send keys here?
In between the
How the send keys work?
we create the
But where the send keys will be sent? Is the file opening physically? If the file is opening physically, then you can use send keys, right? But file is not opening physically. As I told, send keys will work only on the objects where that focus is at that moment. If the file is not opened physically, then how do you perform the send keys on that particular object? Right? If the file is opening physically for us, then you will be able to. Wait for some time. These guys will get confused on that. Okay, so we will discuss that later. You will not be able to use. Okay, answer is you will not be able to use it. Okay. Next. This is what write method exactly. The next method is write line. Okay, write line. So let's understand how the write line works. So let me do one thing here. Keep this file with a different name. So I'll say test file write. Now what I am doing, instead of using write, I am using write line here. Instead of using write method, I am using write line. What should be the output now? What should be the output? Just guess. I mean, probably you may not be knowing perfect answer. One by one? Just have to guess it. What's happening? Text is coming in each line. Then what did you understand from this? Cursor is coming down. Where? Okay. So text is writing in next line. That's what it is, right? Okay, just wait for some more time. I don't explain this write line. Let it be that file. And now first line is write line, second line is write, third one is write line. What will be the output? Okay. Okay. So first two will come in one line, second one comes in, third one comes in second line. First one I have used write line, second one I have used write, third one is write line. Just guess. Just try thinking, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I am not expecting a perfect answer here. Okay, so one answer is first and second will be in one line, right? And third will be in second line. So another answer is first line will be coming in one line, second and third will be coming in another line. Let's see the output. What happened? This is first line, this is first line, and this is second line, and this is third line. I have written that. So second and third are coming in one, first is coming in one. Then what did you understand that write line now? Off right. Off right here. Any guess? What's doing it? When you are using write here, second line I have used write, first line I have used write line, right? Third line I have used write line again. So when I used write and write line combination, it's take this combination, three lines. First combination is write line and write. So when I say write line and write, it is giving two lines here. First line is one, second line is another one. When you say write and write line, both are coming in one line. So second line and third line combination is right and right line. So the second and third combination is giving single line here, but right line and right combination is giving 2 lines. Now, what did you understand from this? Okay. See, what happens exactly is when you use right and right line, when you use right, it will write the text in the same line where the cursor is, and after writing the text, it keeps the cursor in the same line again, so that next time text will be appended to the same line. When you use right line, it will write the text in the line where the cursor is, same as like right only. It will write the text in the same line where the cursor is, but once it writes the text, it creates the new line at the end. It will not keep the cursor in the same line where it has written. After writing the text, it will create the cursor, it will create a new line at the end. So next time when you use right or right line method, since the cursor has come to the next line, text is appended to next line here. So how exactly it works is, let me open a new file now. Okay, assume I have used right here. When I have used right and written some text, so that's how it writes, and where the cursor is now in the same line, because I have used right method. Now when you use right method one more time, writes the text there, and where the cursor is now in the same line, because again I have used right method. Okay, now assume I have used right line. Now I have used right line, and when I use right line, what happens is, it writes the text in the same line where the cursor is, so text as written. But which method I have used now? Right line creates a new line now. That's what right line does exactly. Now assume you have used right or right line, where the cursor is now in the second line. So when I write the text, where the text will be coming? In the second line. And now if you have used right, cursor will be there, so next time text will be appended to second line. But if you have used right line here, it will create one more and then it comes here. Same thing happened when I have used right line, it has come like this. The second combination I have used is all right lines I have used, right? For all 3 lines I have used right line only. Then how exactly it works is, okay, this file is created or so and so date I have written here. But what is the method I have used? Right line I have used there. So cursor has come to the second line. After writing the text, it's created one more line there. Now here also I have used right line. Take the second script whatever we had executed. Then say today's name is, that's the second line I have written. Which method I have used here? Right line. After writing the text, it created one more line. Then say current week in the year is 4. Current week number in the year, something that we have written. And we have used right line. Cursor will be coming to the end. But since we have written only 3 lines, you could see that. You couldn't see new line there. So that's how we got 3 lines in the notepad also when we have used right line. So what is happening here? After writing the text, it is creating a new line at the end, so that next time it is appending to the new line here. It is not like it is creating a line and then writing the text. It is writing the text and creating the line. That's what right line exactly. Now when you have used right and right line combination, what happened is the third one, whatever we used. So third one, how did we use? First, we have used right line. Right? First we have used right line. So it has written the text. Since we have used right line for the first one, it created a new line here. For second one, what did you use here? You have used right. So where the cursor is now in the second line, right? So says today's name is, it has written that. But which method you have used here? Write. So it keeps the cursor in the same line. So now next what I have used? Write line. Then what it says? Since the cursor is in the second line, it started writing in second line only. Current week number in year is 4 something. This is what we have written. Now since I have used write line here, you can see the cursor will come down here. Now next time when you use write or write line, text will be writing in third line. It will write the text in third line. So this is what write and write line difference. When you use write method, it writes the text in the line wherever the cursor is, and after writing the text, it keeps the cursor in the same line. When you use write line method, it writes the text in the same line where the cursor is. After writing the text, it creates a new line at the end. So that next time when you use write or write line method, so text will be coming into the new line. Okay. So if you want to write the text line by line, then what you need to do is, you need to use write line method. You should not use write method. If you say that no, entire text should come in the same line for me, then use write method. But if you say that no, not entire text should come in the same line, so what I need is, I want to get the text in one by one line, then you use write line method. Okay, so that's the difference. This is one of the important thing to know. What's the difference between write and write line here? Both are used for writing only. Both will write the text in the same line where the cursor is at end of the line. And when you use write, keeps the cursor in the same line, but write line creates a new line. After writing the text, it creates a new line. That's the main difference between these two. Okay, write and write line. Then what's a blank lines here? Okay, what's a write blank lines? Name itself says what it is. Just it will create some empty lines in between. Okay. So after write line, what I am doing is, say notepad dot say write blank lines. Input for this method write blank lines is number. It should be number, any number, like how many lines you want. Okay, I want to write 5 lines in between. So what I have done here, write blank lines of 5. Now run this. You can see some empty lines are created in between. So if you want to create some empty lines in between, then you can use the method called write blank lines. Only empty lines. Then input is number, how many lines you want to create. So write blank lines method is used to create the specific number of blank lines in the notepad. Okay, in between. So write and write line method is used to write some text, and write blank lines method is used to write some empty lines. Blank is nothing but empty here. So to create empty lines in between, you can use this method. Okay. And one more thing is here, without using blank lines, how do we create empty lines? I want to create maybe 10 empty lines. How do we do that? I don't want to use write blank lines method. Any idea? Remember that? I don't know, so many of the people are using it. Space is not empty. Remember that. Space occupies some memory. Okay, so never say space is empty. Many of the people do this. When you want to keep empty line, they are keeping the space there. But if you keep the space, that will not be considered as empty. Okay, so empty is like this. That is empty. So no space in between. But if you keep like this, space, that is not empty. It's a non-empty value. Okay, space is non-empty always. Okay, so if you want to keep empty, that will be the empty. Many of the people do this mistake. Whenever we keep some, whenever we want to keep empty, then they are saying double quote, space, double quote. But when you do like that, that will be treated as a non-empty value. That will not be treated as a empty value. Okay, so never do that mistake. When you say empty, don't use space. Okay, do it. So empty means empty double quotes without any character. Space also a character. Space also gets some memory, and when it gets some memory, that cannot be empty. Okay. So if somebody asks about empty, then never ever use space. Okay, that is empty. Always. Now, how do you create empty? Now, it's very simple. Say for I equals to 1 to 5. Use right line, but write empty there. So how many times right line will be executed? 5 times. So 5 times it creates a line there. Write empty text and then create a line. Write empty text and create a line. Without writing anything, it creates a line here. So without using write blank lines, how do you create the lines? You can use this technique. But internally, write blank lines use the same technique. Okay. So write blank lines method is used to write some empty lines. Then without using write blank lines, you can still write the empty lines by using this technique, by using loop here. So if you want 5, you can say 1 to 5, and then if you want 10, you can say 1 to 10 and then execute it. Okay. Now, so these are 3 methods we have to write the data into the notepad. Okay. So what we are doing in this particular script now, we are creating a new file. Okay, by using create text file, we are creating a new file and then we are writing the data into the new file. Okay. Now, see, I don't want to create a new file. Just assume that the file is already there. Text file is already there in the system, in the folder. So what I have to do now is I need to write the data into the existing file. I need to write the data into the existing file. Got what I am saying? So file, I don't want to create a new file now, but what I have to do is I need to access the existing file and then I need to write the data into that. So create text file doesn't work now. So create text file will always try to create a new file. Then what method I can use? Okay. Now, let me save this. Open existing file at the data. Write down the method called open text file. Method name is open text file. So this method is used to open the text file for reading or for writing. For reading or for writing. Okay. Then, so you can open for only one purpose at a time. You can open for writing purpose or you can open for reading purpose. You cannot do both at a time. Okay, so you need to open either for writing or you need to open for reading, either one. Now when you say, you know, I'm opening for writing, okay, then you must have to specify here. When you say open text file, there are two inputs for this. In fact, there are three inputs. First input is path of the file, absolute path of the file, which file you want to open. Whatever the file that you want to open, you must have to provide the path here. The second input is mode of opening. That means you are opening for writing purpose or reading purpose. That's called mode of opening. Okay, mode of opening. Then you must have each mode here has got one number. There are three modes available. Three modes. One is reading. Second one is writing. Third one is appending. Okay, so three modes. One is reading. Second one is writing. Third is appending. And when you say read here, okay, when you say read here, read gets one number. Mode number is 1 for reading. You have to provide the mode number here. So for reading, mode number is 1. For writing, mode number is 2. For appending, mode number is 8. Okay, so not 3, it's 8. Reading 1, writing 2, and for appending 8. So writing and appending almost same, but not exactly same, but similar. There is a small difference between these two, writing and appending. We'll see that. But both are used for writing the data into the file. Reading is used to read the data from file. Okay, you cannot do both. You cannot give reading and writing both at a time. Okay, only one thing can be done. Okay, now remember one thing here. When you are opening a file for reading purpose, cursor will be starting from first line. When you are opening a file from reading purpose, cursor will be starting from first line. When you are opening an existing file for writing purpose, cursor will be there at the last line, very last line. Okay. When you are opening for reading purpose, cursor will be in the beginning of the file, very first line. Whereas when you are opening the file for writing purpose, the cursor will be at end of the file. Always. So when you write the text for existing file, new text will be appended at the last line always, wherever the cursor is. At end of the file it will append. You don't have any option available. If you say I want to write for third line, or I want to write after second line, or I want to write after first line. If you say like that, then you don't have any option available here. That is one of the limitation available in this. Okay, one of the limitation. But still, you have some other alternative. Not in the file system object, there is some other alternative. So something he asked, something called send keys and all. Okay, wait for some time. We will understand that slowly. Okay, so that is a different class object we need to use, not the file system object there. Okay, now, so open text file. So this method is used to open the text file, an existing file, and input is the path of the file, which file you want to open. So let me take the existing file here, whatever the file that we have used. This is the same file. So since okay, I may need to copy it again for different text. So I'll say like this: str file path equals to, I will assign this path to a variable. Okay. So that instead of using this again, I can just use this variable. So one input is the path of the file, complete path of the file, which file that you need to open. Second input is mode. You have to specify the mode number, input or output. Output means reading, input means writing. Then you have to specify. If you specify 1, then you are opening for reading purpose. If you are giving 2, if you give 2 here, you are giving for, or you are opening for writing purpose. If you give 8 here, then you are opening for appending. Okay, you are opening for appending here. So second input is mode, but second input is optional. If you don't give anything, it will take it as reading. By default, it will take it as 1. So when you are opening for reading purpose, you don't need to give the input number, mode number here. Okay, if you are opening for writing purpose or appending purpose, you must have to specify. Now I am giving write only mode. Okay, write only, we call it as. So mode number 2. There is one more input. Actually, there are total 4 inputs, but one input you can forget. There's something called format, so you don't need to use it. But there is third input, we may use sometimes. Third input is, in case if the file, whatever the file that you have given there, if that file is not available, that file is not there, do you want to create a new file and open it, or you have to throw the error? Got what I am saying here? I have given certain file here on top, test file.txt. Then if that file is not exist in that path, what should be done? Do you want to create a new file? While opening it, you want to create a new file and then open it if the file doesn't exist. Then you give true or false here. If you give false, it will not create. If the file is not there, it will not create. But if you give true there, if the file is not there, it will create a new file. If the file is there, it will take that. If the file is not there, then it will create it. So it will, if the file is there, it will take that existing. If the file is not there, it creates when you give true. Okay, forget that true or false. Now we will see that next. Now what I have done here, I am giving file path and I am giving mode number. So mode number I have given as 2. 2 stands for writing, write only. And the file whatever I have given, file exist. Okay. The file whatever I have given is exist here. So this is the file, and there is some data available already in this. The file is, this is the file that I have given, and this file is already exist. So let's see what happens. Any method you can use, write or write line, same. Okay, the methods will not get changed. Write line and write blank lines. The same 3 methods for new file or existing file, anything you can use. Then you can say write line I have used some text that I am writing here. What will be the output? What will be there in the notepad? So that file is already there, some content is already there in that. Let me execute this. What happened? Whole data has gone here. So what it does exactly is here, overwriting. So when you open a file in write only mode, it will open the existing file, whatever is there, and it eliminates the, or it removes the existing data, and then it will write new data. So it's almost like creating a new file. It is deleting it will delete the, or it will erase the existing data in that file, and then it will write new data, whatever you have written here. Okay. So when you open a file in write only mode, all the existing data, whatever is there in that file, will be removed, will be deleted automatically, and only new data will be there in that. That's how write only. Okay, so whenever you open the file in write only mode, then if any data is there in that file, that data will be deleted, existing data will be deleted, only new data will be there in that file. So that's what write only. Okay. Now, so there is some data already there. Some data is there already in this same file, but there is some data already. Now this time what I am doing is, I am opening in appending mode this time, not write only mode. Something that I am writing here, some sample text that I am writing. Execute this now and open that file. Now what happened? So it's appending the line. Actually, I created blank lines at the end. Existing text is there, and new text is appending to the existing text. This is what appending mode means. Both are for writing purpose here. But when you open write only mode, eliminates the existing text always. Whatever the data is already there, it will erase that data, it will delete that existing data in the notepad, and it will write new data. It will keep only the new data when you open in write only mode. But when you open the file in appending mode, it will keep the existing data, and new text will be started appending to the last line onwards. Okay, so that means when you open in appending mode, existing data plus new data, both will be there. So that's what the appending. So the difference between write only and appending mode is, when you open write only, it will open the existing file and removes the data first, and then start writing new data. That is write only. When you open the file in appending mode, it will open the existing file for writing purpose, and it keeps the existing text, and new text will be started adding to the last line of the file. So you will get both existing text and new text. Okay. Then if you say that, okay, now I have log file creating, I am creating one log file. For every time, whenever I do the execution, it has to create only, it should have the log only for the latest execution. Old logs should not be there in that particular file, old result. You got what I am saying here? Only the latest result should be there in the file for latest execution. And I might have done some executions already, 2 executions I have done already, but I don't want that existing. I want only the latest one every time. In such cases, what you can do, you can open that file in write only mode, so that it will remove the existing data, so it will keep only the latest data. But if you say that no, I don't want only the latest one, so if the old log is already there, let it keep the old log, and new data should be, new log should be there at the end. Then what should you do now? So instead of using the opening in write only mode, you open it in appending mode. You open it in appending mode, so that it will keep the existing data there, and it will have the new data also. So this is the main difference between write only and appending mode. Okay. So both are for writing purpose. Both will do the write here. But you have to use write methods. It will not write automatically. You have to use write or write line or write blank lines. Okay, these 3 methods. Same thing now. If you use one, what you are doing here? You are opening it for reading purpose. But what method I am using here? I'm using write method. I'm not using read method. I'm using write method. That means I'm opening the file in read-only mode for the purpose of reading, but I'm still using write method here. That means I'm trying to write the data into the file. Let's see what happens. This is the file, run it. Then what it says now? It says that bad file mode. That means the mode of the file is read only, but you are trying to write the data into that, and then it says that it's bad file mode. Okay, so file mode is not correct. So you are not opening for writing purpose, you are opening for reading purpose, but you are trying to write the data, so which is not possible. So write methods can be used only in write only or appending mode, but write methods cannot be used when you are opening the file in read only mode. Okay. Now if you don't give anything, you don't give anything. So I'm not giving read only, or I'm not giving write only, or I'm not giving appending mode. Anything that I'm not giving anything here. And what it says? Still it says bad file mode. The reason because when you don't give anything, then it will open it in read only mode. So that's a default. Okay, read only mode is a default. So when you want to open the file for reading purpose, you don't need to give any mode. You don't need to say one. Okay, so it will automatically take it. Okay, so these are two inputs. One is the path of the file, and second one is mode of opening, in which mode you want to open. And there is one more input, as I told, is creating. Now let's see what I'll do is I'm opening for writing the data. Whatever the file that I have given for writing, whatever the file that I have given there, that file doesn't exist, right? So whatever the file that I have given here, testfile.txt, that file doesn't exist. I have deleted that, right? Now let's see what happens here. It says that file not found. Whatever the file that you want to open is not found. Now what I will do is, for create open text file, I will give third input as true. I'll give third input as true. This time let's see what happens. No error. What happened? File is not there. It created a new file and then written the data into that. This is what the third input. In case if the file, whatever the file that you are trying to open, if the file is not there, then don't throw the error. You create a file. If the file is there, you open it. If the file is not there, you create it and then write the data. That's what the third input. True means you create. False means don't create. If the file is there, it will take the existing one. If the file is not there, create a new one and then write the data into that. Okay. So this can be used when you are using appending mode also, or when you are using writing mode. But for reading, when it creates, no data will be there in that. So there is no point of creating also. Okay. So when the file is not there, then even though you create now, but empty data will be there. So what will you read from it? There will be nothing to read because it's just created. So when you are using reading purpose, you don't need to use that. But when you are using for writing purpose, you can use third input. Third input, just true or false. True means create a file when the file is not there. False means don't create the file when the file is not there. Throw the error. That's what the false means for. By default, it is false. By default, if you don't give third input, by default it will be false. It will not create. Okay. So this is how you write the data into the existing file. So you can still use write line, you can still use write, or you can still use write blank lines. Same three methods for writing the data into the new file or writing the data into the existing file. Clear? So this is how we write the data into the notepads. Next thing is reading the data from the file. Now we know how to write the data into that, but now what we should know is we need to read the data from the file. Then how do we read the data from the file? Okay, so you cannot create a new file for reading purpose, because if you create a new file, there will be nothing to read. There will be nothing to read. So obviously whenever you want to read the data, so it has to be existing file. So you have to give the existing file path here. Okay, and again you have to open the file existing file. So obviously you have to use the method called open text file, and the mode number you can give as 1 or you don't need to give. So as we saw, if you don't give any mode number, by default it will take it as 1 only, that means read only. Okay, then let me take this out. So you can say 1 here. Then this file is there, and write some data into this. Okay, now what I am doing here, I am opening that file. The file is already exists, fine, that is fine, and I am opening that file for reading purpose. Okay, then how do I read the data from that file now, whatever the data is there? For writing we have got 3 methods. Similarly for reading we have got another 3 methods. For reading also we have got another 3 methods. Those methods are like this: notepad dot read, sorry, first okay, right, read all, notepad dot read line, notepad dot read. So there are 3 methods: read all, read line, and read. So each one has got one purpose here. Let me take this out. So first what I am doing is, okay, so notepad dot read all, no, it should be read line. Then what I have to do is, I'll say, okay, a variable equals to str text, I'll say new variable here. Then let's say message box str text. So what I'm doing here, reading data. So notepad dot read all, I'm storing the text whatever it is reading in a variable, and then I'm trying to display it. Okay, let's see what happens. What happened now? It is reading the complete text of that file, right? Whatever the data is there inside that file, it is reading all text, entire thing. That's read all. Okay, same thing now. What I am doing is, say notepad dot read line. Then same thing that you give here is str text equals to notepad dot readline, and say home str text equals to. So this is what the text is there, is that all? So this is the file and this is the output when I use readline. What happened here? It's not reading the complete text. It is reading only one line. Which line it is reading? First line. So when you use the readline method, it reads the first line by default. It reads only one line and it reads the first line by default. Okay, and you can't say which line you have to read here. So readline, it reads only one line and it reads first line. The next what I am doing is text equals to notepad dot read. So you have to provide some input here. What does it mean? Three lines. Okay. Mrs. box str text. Don't write down. What happened here? It's not like 3 lines. Read method is used to read specific number of characters from the cursor position. As I told, when you open the file, cursor will be there in the beginning of the file. From the beginning, it will read this many characters. So read method is not for reading lines, reading characters it is. When you say read of 3 means read 3 characters. Read of 4 means read 4 characters. Read of 10, read 10 characters, like that. Okay. Now, when I say read line, it is reading single line. Okay. And it's reading first line. But my requirement here is I want to read third line. Got what I am saying here? So it is reading first line. When I use read line, it is reading first line. That is fine. But I want to read third line, or I want to read fourth line or fifth line, anything it is. How can I do that? Unfortunately, we don't have any method to read the specific line here. You have the read line method available, but read line doesn't accept any input to say the line number, which line you have to read. But so we don't get the requirement to read only first line all the time, right? Sometimes we have to read second line or third line or fourth line. But what should I do in this case? So you still have to use read line only here. Okay. And then by using read line only, you can display a particular line here. Then how that can be done? Just understand how this read line works exactly. As soon as you open the file for reading purpose, where the cursor will be? Cursor will be in the beginning. As I told you, when you open the file, text file for reading purpose, file will be there in the, cursor will be there in the first line by default. So when you use read line, since the cursor is there in the first line, it reads line 1. After reading the data, once that line is executed, if the second line is available, cursor will be moved to the second line. Once you execute read line, after reading that line, complete line, cursor will be moved to the second line. Now, if you use read line one more time in the same script, where the cursor is now? Cursor is in second line. So if you use read line now, it will read second line because cursor is moved to the second line. If you want to read third line, then after reading second line, cursor will be moved to third line. So after reading the line, what it is doing? Cursor is moving to the next line here. So if you use read line for third time, it will read third line now because cursor is moved to the third line. After reading third line, cursor will be moved to fourth line. After reading fourth line, cursor will be moved to fifth. Then it will move to sixth. Then seventh, eighth line. Now after that there is no line exist. So once you read this line, cursor will come to the end. That is called end of the file. So once you read the last line, since there is no line exist further, then once you read that last line, cursor will be moved to end of the file. Okay. So this is how read line works. What it will do, by default it will start reading from first line. Why it reads only first line? Because when I open the file for reading purpose, cursor will be there in the first line, so that it reads the first line. Once it reads the first line, if the second line is available, cursor will be moved to the second line. So if you use read line second time in the same script, it will read the second line. And after reading second line, cursor will be moved to the third line in case if the third line is available. If third line is not available, then cursor will be moved to end of the file. That means end of the line. End of the second line is nothing but end of the file. Okay. So this is what read line. Okay. So it reads the line and cursor will be moved to the next line, so that it next line will be read next time when you execute. Okay. Now when you do this, if we want to read third line, what should you do now? Read line should be executed 3 times. First time, first line, second time, second line, third time, third line. Then you display third line. So that means that if I want to read third line, it is not like directly I am reading third line. I am reading first line, second line, third line, but I am displaying only third line here. If you want to read fifth line, you have to execute read line 5 times. First time, first line, second time, second, third time, third, and fourth time, fourth line, and fifth line. If I want to use 20th line, to as many times I need to. Is there any other way? Instead of reading these many times, is there any other way? This is an interview question. I have 2000 lines. Okay, I have 2000 lines. I have to read 1000th line, or I have to display 1000th line. What should I do? Should I loop it for 1000 times and read line for 1000 times? Okay, so if I do that, that works fine. But time also a constraint here. Read line works, and you can read line by line. But the thing is here, it takes a lot of time. It takes use time here. Any other choice? Maybe for the seniors. Even you can guess that, because I already told that, but I did not tell exactly, but you must have got some hint. Got what I am asking here? So requirement is, okay, I have maybe 8 lines here. I want to read 4th line. So if I want to read 4th line, I have a solution like, okay, read line execute for 4 times, then the last line will be 4th line obviously. So it will display, you will display that, or you can display it. That's one solution that we have. And is there any other solution? One of the interview questions this is.
So using new variable
Okay.
total length
Okay.
and then looping if condition.
No loop. That's what, right? I told you. If you loop for this many times, then okay, if it is third line or fourth line, okay, it won't take too much of time. But I want to read 1000th line, it takes too much of time for me. Without using loop. You just guess or think. Any idea? What read all does? It reads all the text once, right? Now read all, take into one variable, split that variable with new line character. VBCRLF. Okay, so this you might not be knowing, okay, but others should know this. When you split with a new line character VBCRLF, then wherever that new line comes, it will split there. So each line will become one value. When I have 3 lines, then first line, new line, second line, new line, third line. That's how the text will be stored. Okay, so 3 lines are there. Now what you do is, you take this all 3 lines into one variable, you split with that new line. When you split with that new line character, then first line will be index 0, second line will be index 1, third line will be index 2. If you want to read second line now, then that collection of 1. If you want to read third line now, collection of 2. Now when you have 2000 lines in that, you split that with new line character, VBCRLF we can use. To say new line character, VBCRLF. Split off that value, comma, VBCRLF. Wherever the line has come, it will split. So 2000 lines, then what will be the index size? 1999. Right? So if you want to use 1000th line now, use that collection of 999. 1000th line you will get it. Okay, without using loop, you can do this way. So other way is loop it for 1000 times. Okay, we'll stop here today, and tomorrow we will see this reading in detail. Okay, how you read and specific line, and then how you read line by line, all those things we will see.